This Sunday's reading is taken from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 2, verses 1 to 12, and I think I'll just run through it with you. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him. Now, we've got a bit of a setup here from Matthew. In the genealogy at the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, he's been very careful to give the lineage of Jesus and show how Jesus is from the line and the lineage of King David. It's there, as I say, in the beginning of Matthew's Gospel. And the David lineage, if you like, is there in verse 6. And as we see this, we understand that for the Jews, this is the greatest of the kings. King David was the greatest monarch. King David was a warrior. King David expanded the boundaries of all Israel, but he was also a man after God's own heart. He was the one who wrote many of the Psalms. He was not perfect, ask Bathsheba, but he was the greatest of the kings. And so we have Jesus of that lineage, born in Bethlehem, that we know, and we will find out, is King David's very village. But we have these wise men coming to King Herod. And so the question is set up right at the beginning. Well, who is the true king? Is it Herod, who occupies a palace, or is it Jesus of the line of David? And note also, these wise men came from afar, from the east. We start to see here that the scope of Jesus' ministry is global. Jesus is not simply a regional king, but he's king of the whole world. And so these wise men come and they go naturally enough to King Herod and they ask him, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? We pick up in verse 3. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. You can see why. He's there as a puppet king of the Romans, and if there's a pretender to the throne, this is a real threat. Verse 4. And assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. So they told him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet, And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people, Israel. So Herod wanted to find out where this king would be from because, well, if the king has just been born, if the star has just risen, if he knew where the king was from, he'd have a good chance of getting rid of him, which of course is what he went on to attempt to do. And Bethlehem is a small, insignificant place, about, 7 or 8 miles outside of Jerusalem. It's not a large town, it's a very small village indeed. And it's pointed to in this prophecy as the place where the Messiah would come from. The Messiah doesn't come from Jerusalem, doesn't come from the obvious place, but comes from this small, tiny, rural place. And Herod has used the scriptures to find this out. Here is an abuse of the scripture, trying to use the Bible for your own benefit rather than reading it and coming under its authority. Verse 7. Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly. He didn't want others to know what was going on, and ascertained from them what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, that I may too come and worship him. So he wanted to know when the star had risen. He wanted to know roughly how old this threat, this baby, would be. And he sent off these wise men to Bethlehem with this false pretense, this offer of false worship. I want to come and worship this king. But he had very different things in mind. When we come to worship God, do we come to worship God because of who he is, or because of some ulterior motive of our own? Verse 9. After listening to the king, they, that's the wise men, went on their way, and behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them, until it came to rest over the place where the child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. This is the response to Christ, surely great joy. This is the response to finding Christ, great joy. And, going into the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. These wise men, these pagan divines, had gone and they'd found Christ, and they worshipped him. They may not have been of the great lineage that Jesus had. They may not have been Jews at all, but they recognized that in Christ, even in the baby Christ, there was someone to be worshipped, and so they did. Carrying on in verse 11. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. Gold, that great symbol of royalty, this metal that doesn't tarnish, this metal that doesn't decay. Frankincense, worthy of so much worship. Frankincense, the ingredient of incense, and myrrh, a great foreshadowing, myrrh being used as one of the burial spices. But God has other plans for them. And so we read, and being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. These other plans was to take them out, to move them out of Herod's influence. The time was not now for the death of Christ. That time was to come, but that time was not to come for a number of decades. The time was now simply for those wise men who had come and worshipped the living God to return from where they were from. So this passage asks us the question, who is the true king? Is it the plotting king Herod, or is it that baby lying in the manger?